study Aquarius. And from the letters that I received from so many of you are very adept at the meaning of that. But we're going to take a look not only from an astrological perspective, an astronomical perspective, but a biblical perspective as well. Okay, so come on along and let's get involved in this together as we study Aquarius. And we have these constellation sheets, and if you want to get a copy of these sheets, you can just maybe you could hold that. Could you hold that up, and Elliot could focus in on Aquarius. Let me tell you something interesting as we start off with this, okay? That's fine. In each constellation, there are what they call 3 decans. That's how churches get the word deacons for, their people that hang around and do things. Decans. Well, that's what they do, hang around and do things. Those 3 decans make up 10 degrees each. So each constellation has 30 degrees. And there are 12 constellations which make up the 360 degrees of the zodiacal circle. That's why there was a need in order to coordinate the calendar to add an additional 5 days, which were added. But those 360 degrees formed the first calendar, and then the 5 days were added. That's why you have 365 days in a year. And the ancients only could see 7 planets. They couldn't see the others because they didn't have telescopes. That's why you have 7 days in a week. And, of course, the 12 constellations is why you have 12 months in a year. If those guys didn't look at that stuff, God knows what you'd have. I mean, you could have, 45 days in a week. Who knows? I don't know. But that's where it all comes from. And we come to this point of Aquarius, and if you look at the bottom of that page of Aquarius, you see something called Piscis Australis, A-S-T-R-A-L-I-S, which is the first decan of Aquarius, and that means the southern, call that the southern fish, okay? The second one, and the next page is one I'm sure many of you know. It's called Pegasus. I don't know how many of you remember Tidal gasoline. You remember that? The red sign of the flying red horse? That's Pegasus. Okay, so that's the flying horse. And the third one is one called Cygnus, C-Y-G-N-U-S, which is the swan. Now, I'm not predicting your fortune. I'm simply telling you what you have on the ceiling of this universe, what there is that God placed in the sky above you. And I'll tell you why it's important for you to understand these things, because in Psalm 147, it said God named the stars. Well, if God gave them these names, don't you think that it would be reasonable for us to find out why? And then what are they for? It says on the very first page of the Bible in Genesis 1 that there are going to be stars in the sky. Let them be for signs. Let them be for signs. How did the Magi know where Jesus was? They followed a star. Well, they didn't actually follow a star that was moving. They understood the meaning of the star, because the Iranian prophet Zoroaster made this prediction. There will be a child king born, and it will be revealed in Virgo. Interesting. Born of a virgin. They read the stars. They were astrologers. They were from the tribe of Magi, which are Magians from Iran. They were astrologers. The root of that word is the root of the word magician. And actually, it's interesting when you see that an Iranian prophet led these astrologers to find Jesus Christ. And there's nothing that Christians understand less than Iranian prophets and astrologers. But nonetheless, that's the way it is. And you have to deal with that. It's truth. It's a fact. But the Magi, well, that's what they are. They're astrologers. And they were sent there by an Iranian prophet by the name of Zoroaster. And they are the ones who announced the birth of Jesus Christ. Well, what have we done so far in studying these constellations? We've come through the virgin birth. We've come through Virgo. We've come through Coma. We've come through the sin offering of Centaurus. We've come through the price paid in Libra. Isn't it interesting that in Libra there are 2 scales? And the lower scale is called, the star in the lower scale is called the price deficient. It represents the lower mind. The star in the higher scale is called the price that covers. It represents the higher mind. And then we came through, after we came through that, we came through the cross of crooks. We came to the crown of Corona. We observed the transformation of consciousness in Sagittarius. We observed the duality of consciousness of that which is coming out of the fish in Capricorn. Taurus the bull, Pisces, the whole business, the dolphin, Delphinus, and now it's time for the blessings to pour forth from the waterman Aquarius. Aquarius. I really wanted to have the record playing tonight. You know, let the sun shine in. When the moon is in the 7th house, means when your subconscious raises itself up to the place of the Sabbath, which is the pineal, Jupiter aligns with Mars. You can tell us what that means, Joni. Then peace will cover the planet. Love will rule the stars. What is wrong with, what is to be feared if peace covers the planet and love rules the stars? That's where we're coming. That's where we're coming in this great wedding of Uranus and so forth, which I've talked to you about. But I want you to see something. I told the folks gathered here a few moments ago something. But for the rest of you, you have the little Bibles in the church. If you go to page 83, the rest of you go to Luke 22. Luke 22. And then we have a prophecy by Jesus Christ. Now, you see, you might say, well, I don't know if it means that. Well, it's irrelevant whether you know or I know. It's in the book. That's all I'm interested in you seeing, that if you open the Bible, it's in the book, okay? In those little Bibles, page 83. For the rest of you in Alaska, California, and all over, you cannot go to a store and buy a little Bible, all right? They don't sell them by the name of little Bibles. They're just little. We call them little Bibles. Page 83 in the New Testament, okay? If you're not familiar with using a Bible, then you go from 1 to about 600 in the Old Testament, and then you start over again and go from 1 up into the New Testament. We're on page 83 in the New Testament. We're on Luke 22, and I want to show you a prophecy by Jesus Christ. Luke 22, verse 10. Behold, when you enter into the city. City in mysticism always means consciousness. When you are conscious of this, what will happen? There shall a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house, and then it goes on to say that he will lead you to the upper room. What Jesus Christ was talking about, and Jesus Christ was very astronomical. Jesus Christ made the statement once, in my Father's house are many mansions. A house is a solar zodiac, a mansion is a lunar zodiac. Jesus Christ understood the stars, he understood the creation. He wasn't afraid of the creation of God. He wasn't a fortune teller, he was a prophet, he was the Christ, as he said, you are. And he said, when you see the man with the pitcher of water, now is the age of the man with the pitcher of water. It's coming in 19 years. The year 2010 will be the man of the age of the pitcher of water. When you see that, enter into the house. The house is yourself. Go to the upper room, which is your higher consciousness. And Jesus said, I will meet you there, and I will feed you the hidden manna. They say, well, I don't know if he means that. Well, here's a way to find out. Enter into yourself. Raise your consciousness to the higher level and see if he meets you there. I loved what Buddha said. Buddha said you've got to have 3 things. 1, he says you've got to have a document. Here's your document. Excuse me. You've got to have a document. 2, you've got to understand it. That means you've got to understand the mystery of that document. And 3, he says you've got to apply what it says, and if it works, you've made it. If it doesn't, throw it away. That's the way you prove it. That's the way you prove it. You come in here on Tuesday nights, people sit on the floor, they go Om, and they lift themselves into nirvana, they lift themselves into a higher consciousness, and we have people that are coming here with inoperable cancers who are going to their doctors, who are being treated by their doctors, who are having wonderful doctors, wonderful treatment, but who, since they have started this meditation process and got their immune system and their mind coordinated in harmony with the universe, doctors saying, I can't understand, this cancer should have gone to your brain, it's going the other way. Is this true? University of Pennsylvania. What is it? It's not hocus pocus. It's not magic. It's not miracles. There is no such thing as miracles. Miracles are just things that never happened before. There's nothing supernatural. God is natural. God is within you. But when you start to apply these principles of harmony with the universe, your immune system focuses in on those things. Your brain and your mind all work together in a harmonic from God, from the higher realm of the right hemisphere of the brain, and these things can be dealt with. And so when Jesus Christ says, when you see the man with the pitcher of water, what was he, playing games with these guys? How do we know what house to go in? Why didn't he say 17 Main Street? No, you're going to see a man with a pitcher of water. When he goes in the house, you follow him. You see the guy. I'm going to see a guy with a pitcher of water. Look up. Here, you got a picture of him right in your hand. You see the man with the pitcher of water? Enter into the house. The house is Aquarius. Go to the upper room, which is your higher mind, and you'll find it. You know, I can't prove it to you. You can't prove it to me. You can't prove you do this. I can't prove I do it. All I'm saying to you, if you're embarrassed by this, go into the bathroom and run the water. Who will know? Get in the tub. Put your head under the water and go home. Who will ever hear you? Do whatever you have to do. Nobody will ever know. You can come here and say, you're nuts. You're a screwball. I'll have no part of this stuff. But do it anyhow, and I'll not know. See? And then you'll preserve your macho ego, but at the same time, you'll do it. You have nothing to prove to me. I have nothing to prove to you. Go for it. Otherwise, what's the alternative? Would you rather get a gun and go to Iraq and fight somebody? For what? Shall we go over there and shoot people, and they'll shoot us? For what? One American dies. One Iraqi dies. I said, people say, oh, well, we have to go over. We have to set those people straight. I said, before you say that, go back on a Sunday morning to our classrooms and see the little children there. And just think that each of those little children could also be a little Iraqi children. Those children are going to be blown to pieces because the bomb doesn't know it's not supposed to blow up little children. No more. And that's what this grade 8 says. We've had it with it. The violence is enough because that violence that comes from the country filters down into the towns, filters down into your house, and we have houses where people throw things at one another, kill each other, rape each other. It's all violence, and it all comes from the lower mind. And that's why the scale says you got to reach up to that scale, the higher scale. That's why Jesus Christ says you got to go to the upper room. And the upper room is nothing more than your own consciousness, and it's all between you and God, and it doesn't cost you a dime. And if anybody says you got to send $10 or $1,000, tell him he's a fake. He's a fraud, he's a con artist, he's a crook. A crook with a bank robber will at least have the courage to come in and say to you, my friend, I'm a bank robber, give me your money. He's got these other guys say, I'm a prophet, give me your money. But they're still crooks. A crook is a crook. And when somebody takes money out of your pocket under false pretenses, he's a crook. And anybody that says you got to spend a dime to get a healing or get a blessing from God is a crook. You don't need anything but yourself and Christ within you. And Christ is your higher mind, and he dwells in your higher mind. So we come to this particular situation here where we're going to say, what is going on in the universe? When you see the man with the pitcher of water. And I want you to see something. If you look at that picture, notice the water that flows down from the pitcher feeds the fish. Okay? You see that? Now the point is this, my friends. Here we go to the real tricky part of this. You see the fish. The water is coming to the fish. How can we find the fish? You say, well, I'll get a pair of binoculars. Well, this is spiritual. How are we going to find the fish? Okay, those of you who have those little Bibles in the New Testament, go to page 110, and I'm going to show you how to find the fish. The rest of you go to the book of John, John 21. Okay? John 21. We're going to see how we can find the fish of Aquarius. John 21. Okay? How are you going to find the fish? Now, fish means, in the vernacular, it means brain food. In spiritual circles, it means wisdom. It means divine understanding. So how are you going to find this fish? John 21, let's go to verse 6. What did Jesus say to them? Cast your net on the right side of the ship, and what will happen? You shall find. Was he playing games again? What is this, the adventures of Jesus Christ and his 12 merry men? Look at all the funny tricks I can do. Oh, there's no fish in here. Yes, there is on the right side of the boat. No, he's saying cast your energy to the right hemisphere of the brain and you will find fish. You'll find wisdom. You'll find understanding. It's an interesting thing. If you go into the mysticism, numerology in the Bible, and I've showed this to a lot of people, the number 9, if you look up here for a minute, the number 9 means human consciousness. It's the number of human consciousness, and it comes because in Sanskrit, which is Hindu, the value of the word atom is 9. So the number 9 means human consciousness. See? So where you start to decipher things and begin to understand what they're talking about is, for instance, the sign of the beast is 666. Well, this is the way they did it. They said it's the number of a man. It has to come out to 9. 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 1, 8. 1 plus 8 equals 9. Now, they tell you there's 144,000 saved. 1, 4, 4 equals 9. It's throughout the Bible, and I can show you hundreds and hundreds of things, as we've shown you before, of how that number 9 comes into play. And it's simply mysticism to show you that the Bible isn't talking about a beast. It's talking about the lower mind. It's not talking about salvation in terms of angels. It's talking about the higher mind. Now, Jesus has just told you to cast your net to the right side. Let's see what he's talking about. Look at John 21, verse 11. Okay? Verse 11. Simon Peter went up, drew the net to the land full of great fishes. And how many fish did he catch? 153. How many can add? 5 plus 3 plus 1 equals 9. Okay? Now, do you want to know something interesting in the magnificent constellation Aquarius? Guess how many stars there are in the constellation Aquarius, Mary Jane Gard? 108. Can we add? 9. Do you know that when the Buddhists go out on New Year's Day and celebrated their great New Year's celebration, you know how many times they struck the gong in Tibet? 108. Why not 107 or 106? Because of the number 9. Yes, it is why there is 9 months gestation in pregnancy and why some dogs are 63 days in this whole business, because it's all that magic number of 9, which is put in there so that you can understand that God is speaking to you from a standpoint of your human consciousness and not playing games about throwing this over to the left side or the right side. He's saying, if you'll shut down the left side, cast your net to the right side, I'll give you fish, I'll give you wisdom, I'll give you understanding, I'll give you peace, I'll give you healing. It's inside of you. The temple is inside of you. They say that the best of us is 90% ignorant because we dwell on the left side. And Jesus says, cast your net to the right side. That's why Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father. Sits at the right hand of the Father because the Father is the higher mind, and the right hand of the Father is the right hemisphere of the brain. Well, I don't know if I believe that. We'll try it. Oh, I can see you staring at me. Come on for a minute. I'm going to show you something interesting. Okay? Open your Bible. You have to find this one on your own. 1 Kings. Maybe for those of you who are not familiar with this, somebody can show you where that is. When some of you that have one of those little Bibles finds 1 Kings chapter 6, will you yell out what page it's on? It's in the Old Testament, page 297 in the Old Testament. I want to show you something. Now, I'm talking about the temple, okay? Here's a young man who wants to be on television. Come on up with me. Here, I'll put you on television. People in Alaska and California and Oregon are going to see it. Now, here's a perfect example of a young guy, a macho guy. I want you to show him here. Here we have an average American guy. Now, just you got to look straight ahead because I got to. Do you know what that part of his head is called? The temple. That's the temple. When Jesus drove the money changers out of the temple, he was driving the kooky thoughts out of his mind. Is that right? That's the temple. Okay, thanks a lot. You were a great TV star. Great. He did good all over the country. Up in Alaska, people are going to watch it. And the reason I wanted to show you is this reason, okay? We're going to construct the temple. Now watch what we do when we construct the temple. 1 Kings 6, are you there? And the house, when it was in building, was built of stone, made ready before it was brought. So there was neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron heard in the house while it was in building. The temple is built in silence. Do you see that? The temple must be built in silence, in meditation, beyond the realm of any thought. Now, Jesus said, cast your net to the right side, okay? Let's take a look at 1 Kings 6:8. The door for the middle chamber. The middle chamber is the Holy of Holies. It's the holy place. The door for the middle chamber was in the right side of the house. Why? That's the temple. The young man was up here, showed you the temple. The temple is called the temple because it is the place of where God dwells within you. And the right side, the door to the middle place, is on the right side of the temple. And why does Jesus split the eastern sky? And why is the star of Bethlehem in the east? And why did the wise men come from the east? Because when you look north, the east is on the right side. And all of that which is of God's glory comes from the right side. Let's take a look at, when you're there, page 140 in the Old Testament. And I want to show you something in another reference to the constellation Aquarius, and it's in Numbers 24, the book of Numbers. I know I go a little fast, but, you know, just forgive me for that, but dig we must. I want you to go to Numbers, page 100 and, what did I say, 40 in the little Bibles, thank you, page 140, and if we go to Numbers chapter 24, and we'll go to verse 7, okay? All ready? Okay. Numbers 24, verse 7. Here's another reference to that Aquarius constellation. He shall pour the water out of his buckets. Take a look at your picture again. See it? He shall pour the water out of his buckets. And his seed shall be in many waters. His king shall be higher than Agag. His kingdom shall be exalted, which means that it shall be high. His kingdom is high. It's the high part of your consciousness. It's the high part of your nature. Look at that next line. God brought him forth out of Egypt. You see that? Who came out of Egypt? Didn't it say that Mary and Joseph took the child Jesus to Egypt so to fulfill the prophecy, out of Egypt have I called my son? But Jesus referred to himself in the book of Revelation as what? Thus saith the Amen. Every time that you've gone to church and you said amen, you've given homage to the Egyptian sun god. Amen, Ra. And so Jesus identifies himself in the book of Revelation, in Revelation 3, thus saith the Amen, as the Egyptian sun god. Oh, you're telling me Jesus Christ is the Egyptian sun god? It said in Matthew 3 that Mary and Joseph took him to Egypt, so to fulfill the prophecy, out of Egypt have I called my son. And we can go into the obvious references of Jesus Christ as the sun god. I mean, he comes down like the sun and is crucified on the southern cross, which is the constellation on December the 21st. December the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, which is the winter solstice. The sun sits in the bowels of the earth, entombed 3 days and 3 nights. On December the 25th, the winter solstice ends. By the trajectory of the earth, the sun is born out of the constellation Virgo, born of a virgin. And then the sun rises up to intercourse with the Lamb, the wedding of the Lamb, which is Aries, and then in the northern sky sits at the eastern or right hemisphere, and summer comes. Why? Because in your little tummy, come on up here. This guy's got to get equal time. He's got a little tummy. He's better than me. There you can live. Right there. You see that there? Now don't you look here. You see that? You know what that's called? The solar plexus. You know what the solar plexus is? The place of the sun. It showed everybody your solar plexus. That's good. The place of the sun. And so the place of the sun is that point which must be raised by meditation from the bowels of the earth, raise itself up to that which is the pineal gland of air, and sit at the right hemisphere so that summer can come to your life. Remember something? That you who sit in the winter will never see the summer or the grass grow again unless the sun rises up to the Lamb. And you who sit in the winter of your life with all of the confusion and all of the darkness and all of the coldness within yourself will never see new things grow, will never see blossoms come again unless you raise that sun from the low part and let it rise up to the pineal gland of the brain and sit at the right hemisphere. That's when summer will come to your life, because as it is without, so it is within. Amen, Ra. Now there's another thing about Aquarius. It's an air sign. It's an air sign, which means it means renewed consciousness. And as I said, there's 108 stars in it. You know what's exciting about this? How many of you ever heard the story of Jesus at the wedding feast in Cana? Jesus turned the water into wine. Do you remember that? When he poured the water? Well, right now as you're sitting here, this is the exciting. Right now as you're sitting here, here comes the constellation Uranus. The constellation Uranus is swinging in a mighty arc to reclaim his bride, Gaia. The earth, you and me, and Uranus is called the Son of Heaven. The Son of Heaven is returning, and it will be here in the year 2010 in 19 years, and it will remarry Gaia, the earth, you and me. And do you know where this is going to take? Do you know where this wedding is going to take place in the sky? In Aquarius. What? The man with the pitcher of water. The fulfillment of the wedding, Christ with the pitcher of water. And at that time when Aquarius dips his bucket, as you see, that water which will flow out will be wine. New spirit to the earth, covering the earth in newness, wisdom, peace, and understanding, and regeneration. That's what's going on in the heaven. The second coming of Christ is being fulfilled right now by the Son of Heaven returning to claim his bride, Gaia. And it will happen in Aquarius. And who said when you see the man with the pitcher of water go into the house? Jesus Christ, the man who changed the water into wine. Simply means the man, that which is within you, that changes the truth of the lower nature into that which is the spirit of the higher, changing the water into wine. If you look at Aquarius, you see a star in his right shoulder, and that star is called Pouring Forth. It's Sayad el-Milk. And his left shoulder, it's Sayad el-Sund, which means who goes and returns. And this is the point. The Aquarian age is the time of the coming together of what? I'm going to show you something to shake you up. The coming together of Israel. Not a Jewish word, an Egyptian word. Is is Isis, which means the spirit, the goddess Isis. Ra is the mind, the sun god. And El comes from the ancient Babylonian cult of Mithra. It's the bull cult. El was the bull god, and it means that which works in the flesh. So you have the spirit and the mind, meaning God in you in the flesh. That's why El is on the name, the end of the name, or the word angel. Angel is the God in you, the God impulse in you. That's why all the angels named end in El. Michael, Uriel, Gabriel, Raphael. It all comes from the same cult, which means God inside of you. Okay? It's not all accident. It's the way it is. And you can look it up. Go to the library. Look it up. It's true. And not only that, be part of it. Understand it. Do you honestly think that God picks a select country and said, that's my boy? I don't want to know from you because you got blonde hair. I am going with the Jewish, with the Israel, the rest of you. They are my chosen people. You stay out. When I come in, I'll give you maybe a break. I'm not so sure. Come on. Come on. Why are the Jews the chosen people? I'm going to show you why the Jews are the chosen people. Because in Numbers 2:2, when they set up in the camp of the desert, they put the tribe of Judah at the east, at the point of the rising sun. You can look that up. Numbers 2:2, the Judah is at the... Now what the heck would that... So that's where the word Jew comes from, Judah. So why would they be God's chosen people? They're in the east. And what's the east? When you look north, it's on the right side. So those who come and dwell in the right side are God's chosen people. And how do you dwell in the right side? By turning off that which is the carnal mind of the left side. And why should you turn off that which is the carnal mind of the left side? Because the Apostle Paul says the carnal mind is not subject to the law of God, neither can it be, Romans 8:7. Therefore, you cannot look at anybody, no matter what hideous crime they've done, because there is nobody who has ever sinned. Your mind has sinned. You have never sinned because you and your mind are two separate entities. And once you understand that, that's when you can break loose from it and head upstairs and learn how to control your mind instead of letting your mind control you. The Apostle Paul says, why do I do the things that I do? I mean, here's a guy that wrote the Bible. Can you imagine what he was into? Why do I do the things that I do? And then he said, because I don't approve of the things I do, it means that it's not me that's doing these. It's the sin in me. It's the mind. You can look at a murderer. You can look at a rapist. You can look at a burglar. You can look at whatever you want. But you have to say to yourself, if I had the same mind as that person, could I do any different? And you're never going to have an answer. You're never going to have an answer. So here then in Ezekiel 24:28 says, I will sprinkle clean water on. It doesn't make any difference what you've done. It doesn't make any difference what the church thinks of you. It doesn't make any difference what the government or the cops or religion thinks of you. It's irrelevant. If you put yourself in the center of that being within yourself, you'll be touched. It doesn't make any difference whether you're good or bad and you go to the beach. If you lay down in the sun, you'll get a tan. Does the beach say, now just a minute, have you been to church? I'm not going to give you a tan. Look at you. Why, for Pete's sakes, you don't have your Sunday meeting clothes on. I'm not going to give you a tan. Let me find somebody to give a tan to. What does it do? What does it think? Christian, born-again Protestants and carve out a little niche and make a nice tan for them, but the other guy who's sitting there gets shade over him? It's ridiculous. You expose yourself to the sun, and it does what it has to do. It doesn't make any difference who you are or what you are. In the same way, when you take yourself within, you expose yourself to the inner sign, it will give you a tan. It will set you free. It will bring you to the right hemisphere, the place of the fish. It will give you that new life. It's all yours. You don't have to join any church or be part of any religious group or give anybody a dime. It's 100% free, and you can do it right in your house. You can do it right in your car, wherever you want. It's between you and that which is the kingdom within you. And that's the beautiful part of it. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. He'll prove it to you. It's not that God or Jesus Christ is waiting for you to invite him into your heart. He's already there. He is asking you to come into his. You remember the story of Jesus Christ at the well? Remember the woman at the well? The well signifies the place of deep water within you, the place of deep truth. And there he's sitting at that well, waiting for the woman, which means spirit, to come and drink of that water. And what did she do? Once she drank of that water, she put her water pot down. She's never going to take that water in the old way again. From now on, she's going to drink of that new truth within herself. And that's what you have to understand. All of this is symbolism. That's what it says in Joel 2:28. I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Who will? The waterman. Haven't you had enough of it? I mean, don't you understand all of a sudden? If you don't think that an Aquarian age is going to change things, ask Mr. Gorbachev. Has anything changed, Gorby? Remember the communist regime in East Germany? Ask those guys that were in control. Did you notice any changes? Remember the guy in Poland? Remember they put Lech Walesa in jail? Do you remember? Do you know who the president of Poland is in charge of that place? Lech Walesa! Ask the guy that lost. Did you notice any changes? Come on. And you know what the biggest change is? You noticed a change in here. That's why you're sitting here. You're not going to come down and hear some screwball in a cellar of Vito's store yelling about all of this unless something's going on inside of you saying, there must be more to this than saying, I'll go to church, I'll give him a few bucks, and then when I die, everything's going to be okay. You're a jerk. You're giving a guy all of this money, and the best deal he can give you, it's going to be nice after you die. Who's ever come back to say he's a liar? Nobody. I give him the money. I don't want to take any. Now, Jesus Christ said, God is a God of the living. You have it now while you're alive. You find Christ in you now when you're alive, and you prosper now. You have love now. You have peace now. You understand this earth now. Once the minds of men and women are changed by this power coming down from above, the planet Earth will become the planet heaven. The only thing that keeps the planet Earth from being the planet heaven is the minds of men. And so as we'll get ready to wrap this thing up, I want to tell you the great promise of the Aquarian age, the new age. In this pouring out of the pitcher, this wine, okay, touching all flesh, we've moved onward out of this valley of the shadow of death. In other words, we've moved out of this place of fear. You've got to move out of fear. Onward to the celestial house where the banquet is being prepared. What I'm teaching on Sunday mornings is it said God prepared a banquet, a wedding banquet for his son, and he invited all the people. You know who's all invited? The religious people. Oh, you're religious? Oh, Father, you want to come? Oh, Pastor, would you like to come to the wedding? Oh, come on to the wedding. Where's the wedding? In Aquarius. Oh, I don't believe in that stuff. I don't believe in that. Oh, it's going to happen there. Uranus is coming back to claim his bride Gaia. Oh, don't study that stuff. Why wouldn't you study it? God created it. Who put him up there? Did you put the stars in the sky? Did you name it Aquarius? Who put them up there? But they won't watch it, you know? They won't look at them. And here's the great, magnificent wedding. And so you know what happens in the Matthew 22? God says, if they won't come, bring anybody you find. Let them come. Bring the non-believers in. The non-Christians, bring them in. And all of these people that are so religious say, what are those people? You're not going to listen to them. Shirley MacLaine. What is she doing there? Well, the reason she's there is because you wouldn't come. So she took your seat. She took your seat. So you come to the wedding. And if you would like to see the wedding and you find out more about the wedding, go to the planetarium at Ocean County College and they'll show it to you. It's happening in the sky. It's happening in the sky. And that's why all the changes, that's why all the revolution of thought and consciousness, that's why all of these strange things have happened. Albert Bianchi, who's on vacation, called me. He's a physicist. Called me the other night. He said, Bill, I got some exciting news. I said, you always do, Albert. Lay on me, boy. He says, guess what? I said, what? He said, there was a lineup of Mars and the Earth and the Moon, and there was supposed to be high tides. But you know what? I said, what? He said, there wasn't any. And all the scientists can't figure out why, but he said they've come up with one conclusion. What was it, Albert? Something big behind these planets changed the effect totally. Here he comes. Coming for the bride. Old Uranus. You know something? The story of Uranus is that when he was married to Gaia, it was Uranus. This is mythology now. Mythology doesn't mean it didn't happen. Mythology just means it's a symbol. When Uranus was married to Gaia, they had children. One of the children turned out to be, dun, 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 Saturn. Woo! And you know what Saturn did? Saturn got a sickle and he castrated Uranus. Did you ever hear that? It's true. What does that mean? The sickle means time. Saturn, Satan, is time. Will never leave you alone. You know, your mind never lets you alone. Never says, what a beautiful time you're having today. What a good day I'm having today. It always says, but what's going to happen tomorrow? And what's going to happen next week when you got to meet so-and-so? Or what happened in the past? That's time. And castrating Uranus means that the seed can no longer flow from the Son of Heaven. The seed can no longer flow from God. But all of a sudden, one beautiful day, out of the depths of the sea, which means God's truth, there came Venus, love. And Venus, with the age of the Cyclops, which is the single eye, threw Saturn out and restored Uranus to its position. And now Uranus, that mighty planet, is coming back to take his bride in 19 years, fulfilling the age of Aquarius, where the waterman is with the pitcher of water. And you know what? And this is true. This is true. Look it up. Look up. This is true. You know somebody that said Saturn castrated Uranus? Uranus is a planet with a big chunk out of it. It's a fact. It's got a big chunk out of it. And so I said, where the heck, how could it have a chunk out? It collided with something. It collided with something. And not only did it collide and have a chunk out of it, but guess what? It is the only planet that spins in the opposite direction of all of the others. All of them go around like that. Uranus goes like that. And when it comes at right angles to the Earth, it causes upheavals in consciousness, and it knocks down all of the traditional status quo. You ain't seen nothing yet. You haven't seen anything yet. This is great. But you know what's the good part of this? Not a time to be afraid. It's a time to be happy. And nice. The dolphins are going to be leaping up, and the whales are going to leap up, and the animals are going to be free, and the goats, and everybody's going to have a good time, and everybody's going to start loving one another, and they're going to drive all that war stuff out, and people are going to have a good time, and the earth is going to be regenerated into peace and love. That's what Aquarius, that's what Uranus promises. That's what Uranus promises. So we've come through this age of Pisces, but now you're coming into an age of Aquarius where you're going to break the mold. All bets are off. All the old accepted habits are going to be broken. You know, it's an age for each fish, and each one of us is a fish, and we got to find our own level. You got to follow your own consciousness, because I'm going to tell you something why you got to follow your own way. If a fish is not free to descend, then he's also not free to ascend. You've got to find. You know, you take a look sometimes at Pisces, you got one fish swimming out that way, you got another one swimming up this way. That's where you got to be. You got to swim upward. So the end of Pisces, which we are coming out of now, spells the death of society as we have known it. The status quo is going to be status no more. No more of it. And there's going to be a lot of rumbling. And they're going, I haven't been called every name in the book. There are some people outside that think I'm strange. I don't know how to believe it, but it's true. See? But the status quo is totally over. And now's the part to be very happy about it and enjoy it and be at peace with it. This is what do you know of any more? They said I'm kind of a revolutionary, a radical. Who was more radical than Jesus Christ? I mean, this was the time of the temple buildings. These are beautiful temples. They said to Jesus, aren't those a beautiful temple? You know what he said? Peter, there ain't going to be one rock left standing on top of the other one. Revolutionary, you know what he did? You couldn't do anything on the Sabbath, Rick. You couldn't do a bit of work. He waited out in a farm where he knew the rabbis were hanging around. He said, let's go out. And he waited for the rabbi. When the rabbi showed up, he said, hey, let's go pick some corn. You can't do that. Come on, let's go pick some corn. He did that just to show the foolishness of it. Come on. And then he busted right into their service, right into the temple. What are you doing here? I'm going to heal somebody. You can't heal nobody on the Sabbath. What's the matter with you, boy? He said, stick your hand out, man. Because it's all religion. It's all church. All stained glass windows so they can't look outside and see all the mess they made. Sit in there singing Amazing Grace. Amazing grace. Amazing disgrace. Open the windows and let the air and let the doves and let the sun and look outside and look at all the poverty and look at all the wars and all of this stuff. You've been singing Amazing Grace. People are killing each other, raping each other. Little kids are taking drugs and all of this stuff. Fuck Amazing Grace. Dump Amazing Grace. Dump all of this stuff. Raise yourself up into the place within yourself where you'll come out of that building, come out of that make-believe temple made with hands and come into that which is the love temple of Christ made without hands. And that's what the age of Aquarius, that's what Uranus promises. That's what Uranus and Aquarius is going to do. And it's happening now, and that's why you're sitting here. It's a universal baptism. You see that man with the pitcher of water, you know what he's doing? He's baptizing. He's pouring it on you. But you got to be willing to submit yourself to it. Look up. Do you know what they did when they made Noah's Ark? Do you know what they did? They put one window in Noah's Ark. And you know what that was? In the ceiling. You know why? Because the only place you can look when you get into that holy ark is up. Up is the only place you can look. Because if you start looking out, you're going to see all the garbage coming against you and you're going to freak. But if you look up, you can't see it. See? Well, you made Peter. Peter said, Jesus said, walk on water, Peter. That's right, walk on the water. You know what that means? Come on, look up. Raise yourself to a higher mind. Look up to a higher consciousness. Set out on all of that emotional stuff. Set out on all that fear. Set out on all that aggravation. Walk on it. Put it under your feet. So you'll walk on it. You'll walk over every trouble that'll come against you. But as soon as you look down, as soon as you start looking at it, as soon as you start thinking about it, down the old toilet you go. So this is the age of Aquarius. And this is where we come together. You may say, I don't want to get involved. You are involved. You're living on a tennis ball going through the universe at 40,000 miles an hour. Ain't no way to jump off. Ain't nobody even driving this thing. So where are you going to go? You're on a planet Earth. Okay? Be a part of it. You know, some people say, I don't know if I believe in that celestial cosmic stuff. You're on a tennis ball flying 40,000 miles an hour through the universe with nobody driving it. What do you mean you don't believe in it? Moon's going around, sun's going around, all this stuff going around, dodging in and out of this stuff. You're on it. Be part of it. Plug into it. Get in harmony with it. In Jesus' name. Hey, isn't it wild? Thank you for being with us tonight.